The Britanno-Romans, the group that spurred out of the Celtic/Britannic peoples under the Roman jurisdiction for over 400 years. They would eventually wither out away with the migration of the Jutes, Angles, and Saxons after the collapse of the Western Roman authority. But what if that changed? What if instead of that fate, the Britanno-Romans reclaimed Greater Britannia, removed all Germanic migrators, while mending the rift between the Celtic and Roman peoples, not just culturally, but also religiously? Well, that's exactly the aim of this campaign, and boy, get ready for a wild and janky ride. So, Britannia. In the year 476, the Romans had already left for a while and abandoned the Isles, leaving the door open for the Germanic migrators. But all hope is not yet lost, as still Britanno-Romans bastions in the western side of Britannia remain. And in this case, we shall start as Count Comes Heretic. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. A Britanno-Roman vassal under the famous Roman resistance leader Ambrosius Aurelianus. Comes, while certainly a Britanno-Roman, he does not share the religious ideas of his counterparts, as he sees the Celtic gods as the only way to unite the Celtic and Roman peoples against the Germanics. But that, and well, being a mere count, will certainly make a difficult ride, as he controls one of the poorest regions of Britannia at this time. Anyway, enough rambling, let's get started. Booting up the game, we see that the DLC mechanic of the struggle that was added with the Fate of Iberia DLC is being used here for Britannia, meaning it will not be as simple as just conquering everyone in one fell swoop thanks to all the phases and special decisions and special events and yada yada yada. So as explained before, our ruler starts with an unreformed druidic Fate of Britannia. And while that would be enough for mixing the Roman and Celtic world, there's another more fitting religion for this task. Terranism is the original Celto-Hellenic syncretist faith, mainly using Roman gods, but also Druidic gods as well. So we will want to convert to it. Sadly, the cost is too high for our character to get, so the best bet is to marry a Terranic woman and have her convert our future character, so that's basically what I did. Oh yeah, and before anyone says that I was using console commands, yes, I used debug mode for this campaign a lot. Why, you may ask? Well, it was because it was quite buggy and janky. But don't worry about that, as that part will be for the end of the video. My first order of business was to become more powerful, as having just 186 men will not be enough. So with the Meristocracy perk, I claimed my liege's throne as the Duke of Britannia Prima. And after helping some fellow vassals win a war of tyranny, I started a faction to become the rightful Duke of Britannia Prima. This all came to my advantage, as the Saxons were causing up trouble, so that meant that Ambrosius would be weaker when the fighting broke out. As expected, I managed to win the war, became the Duke, and started expanding in the region of Wales, as I still was pretty weak even after becoming a Duke. By this point, I noticed that the Utes managed to get the title of Britannia, as well as 9,000 troops! Knowing full well that he would destroy me if I was not careful, I decided to buy a long truce to avoid getting eaten by him. But later I had a better idea. I decided to do the same thing I did to our dear Ambrosius, and so I bent the knee to the Jutish king. I later started a claim for the throne. He actually found out, and so stopped being friends with me, even though I didn't know he was even my friend, so who cares. I got my claim and started a claimant faction. I pressed my claim and went to war yet again. You would think that this was a mistake considering the staggering amount of troops he has, right? Well, he's not the only one with a fuck ton of troops, so I called my Irish friends and we easily took over Britannia. As I was trying to kill my former overlord so he wouldn't pass his claim to his sons, I was actually murdered. So yeah, my son took over, dividing the realm, but hey, I finally was tyrannic. I started a war to reunite the realm, but then all my powerful vassals took the opportunity and revolted. During all of this, migrations, various migrations happened, where I had to surrender since there was no way to fight off this many enemies. Thankfully, my brother was captured and I reunited the realm of our father. But new revolts kept happening as I was still dealing with my civil war, but thanks to my new Irish friends, I defeated the revolt, and it was time for some vassal management. But another faction immediately reformed, this one a dissolution one, so you know this one is gonna be spicy. So, time to pick up the spears to fight yet again. Again, new migrators declared war, so I had to cave in yet again. In this case, since I was outnumbered, I decided to forego the route of beating them in battles and instead rushed for the capitals of my vassals. And that worked surprisingly well as the enemy divided up his troops perfectly so I could strike. We won and that was enough to end the war. But more fucking people declared war with 1,000,000 special troops, so you know the drill. The dissolution faction would come into my favor as the powerful Duke of Kent controlled most of the developed part of Britannia, so with me taking over those lands directly, it greatly boosted my income and troops. As I was in mostly stable position, I declared to take back the old Roman capital of Britannia, Londinium, and moved my capital there to signify to the world that the Roman order in the Isles was being re-established. What followed were wars to clean up the rest of Britain, the Britannian heartland, and some revolts. But then the first big migration happened as the Saxons were coming in to take my most valuable region. So it was time to start a tradition of beating the Saxons every time they came to take Kent, as this would not be the only time they tried. All of this, of course, with some friends, as, yeah, dealing with the Saxons alone would have been a nightmare. With the migration stopped, and as such, it was time to continue cleaning up those beautiful borders. Around this time, my character was about to die, so I decided to go for the required holy site so that I could reform the Tyrannic faith, meaning it was the first time we would venture into the European mainland. During my expedition in Gaul, the Wales were being obnoxious, so I gave them some land to fuck off, but later that would become a mistake as that character would become the King of Wales and I would have to wait a while to annex him, so, well, what can you do? After taking the required province in Gaul, I went to Hispania and attacked the Suebi for my holy site. But then my character died, and I also noticed that since enough provinces in Britannia had converted to Tyrannism, I was now considered involved instead of an interloper, and that came with its own upsides and downsides. Fast forwarding a bit into the future, with the required holy sites needed, I reformed the faith to suit our current needs. The faith would need to become righteous instead of brutalist, as Germanic heathens kept coming to our lands when they were certainly not welcomed. A new head of faith would be installed, and we would become a warmonger, as decades of war taught us that no conciliation would ever last. Also, I had enough prestige to replace a tradition as head of the culture, but the problem was that in theory we should only have had 5 traditions at this point, but the mod decided to add 6 traditions for the start for the britanno-romans. So if you try to replace one, the game will just remove that certain tradition entirely, and that's about it. You don't get to replace it really. That's until you're allowed to have more traditions, so just a quick PSA to anyone trying to do something similar. My third character would pass away, not accomplishing a whole lot admittedly, but his son, oh boy. He would have the groundworks to completely unite the whole of Britannia at last. Firstly, I killed the King of Wales, leaving his young son in charge. This would be a great opportunity to secure Wales at last. But not before the bloody Saxons came back for Kent yet again. So I rallied half of all remaining rulers in the British Isles to beat the Germanic heathen army in the shores of Britannia. And unsurprisingly, the coalition was a bit too large for the Saxons to handle, and lost every time they tried to retreat until they were shattered enough to surrender. I founded a holy order and continued my path to unite the whole British Isles. With Wales completely secured, it was finally time to do what the Romans couldn't. It was time to cross Hadrian's Wall and pacify the Picts once and for all. With Caledonia under my hands, no ruler would stand a chance against our rule. So with the reintroduction of the comitatenses, I can't stress enough how powerful those troops are in this mod. The invasion and pacification of Hibernia was about to start. Fast forwarding yet again into the future, as it doesn't make a lot of sense showing more wars, as no other ruler was powerful enough to stop me at this point. I was finally ready to end the struggle. But as you can see here, the fact that debug mode is on means something is not quite right. Well, you would be right, as to end the struggle by conquest you need to wait until the hostility phase, but because early on conciliation happened, for the hostility phase to come around, I would need to wait for the migration and later hostility phase. And I was not going to wait that long to end this bloody campaign, and not only that, because Taranism is not a religion included at the start of the struggle, I think I broke a requirement, specifically the one that requires you to have your de jure kingdom, the same religion and the same culture. So, with the help of some console commands, I was able to end the struggle, and to be quite frank, it's basically the same ending as in the base game in Iberia, so yeah, if you're West Germanic or purely Celtic, you can get some more flavorful endings, as well as if you're the Roman Emperor, you can again get another special ending. But because I didn't match any of the criterias, I was stuck with the regular hostility ending. So, well, it is what it is. I created my empire title and I changed it so it would be more like the Britanno-Roman faction in Rome total war barbarian invasions for nostalgia's sake. Kudos if you remember that special faction that appeared when the Roman lost all the other cities in Britannia. I used some console commands to clean up the borders because I was done with this campaign at this point. Declared Terranism as the official new faith of the Empire. The Germanic invaders had been almost completely pushed out, and now Britannia stood stronger than ever. And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video and this wild ride that was uniting Britannia under a Roman Celtic banner. Next time, I will be finishing the long-awaited Western Roman campaign that I left off. If you would like to see more content like this, remember to subscribe as this really helps out the channel. You are dismissed, soldier.